Hello, everyone. Welcome back into the echo chamber. You're trapped in here with us. It's Gooey. That's going to be our
You're
catchphrase for
trapped.
this.
You're trapped in here with us.
It's Gooey, Corey McKenna from the ZD YouTube team, and look. We're all done with Echoes of Wisdom. We've finished it. Um,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of been, I think, as of our last video, at least McKenna was done. Uh,
Yeah.
but we're talking through the game, but we're we're going to slow. It's sort of like that meme of the drawing of the horse, but like with the Game of Thrones seasons people talk
Yeah.
about, where our memories are getting a little bit more foggy
Yeah.
as we get farther away from what we've played. So we're probably less detailed than our other videos, but um,
I actually rewatched people playing the three later dungeons today, just to give myself a refresher.
yeah, I did that with the end. We'll see. Well, this might be one or two videos, but we're a little loosey goosey. I'm not making promises here. What where we're gonna be, but we're gonna talk through the dungeons and like this, the rest of the story and ending of the game in this epic finale. Uh, maybe there'll be a to be continued cliffhanger, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's get into it. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So where we last left off, we had talked about Hyrule Castle, and then that's where they're like you have to go collect the prime energy or whatever, and
Prime energy.
we get three more dungeons to complete before the end. Um, what's Corey? What's the order you did the dungeons in? I think you might have already hinted at this, but what was your order?
I did Eldin, Lanayru, Faron.
Elden. Okay. Um.
Yeah.
Okay, McKenna, how about you?
I did the same.
Wow. Okay.
Nice. Let's go, McKenna. We did all the dungeons in the same order.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a freaking update on my computer that was going off right there. um,
Oh, jeez.
wow. Anyway, um, I thought Lanayru was pretty clearly like the final area, so I tried to leave it for the end, but um,
Mm.
I believe what I did was I initially started exploring the Faron region, but then I encountered some enemy that I just couldn't kill. Like in I think it was there was like a level 3 dark nut in a
Was
cave.
almost. Oh,
Uh,
yeah. There is a dark nut too.
yeah, in the swamp or whatever region, and so I kind of backed out of there, and I was like maybe I feel like Eldin is probably the way to go because it's Kakariko Village is there. Like I feel like that's kind of established as like I don't know. That's just the vibe I got. That would be like the next kind of easiest of the easy like
Yeah.
of the three, the place to go. So I went to Eldin. So um, let's talk about it. I mean, the Eldin region, um, it that was the home of the Gorons, who were I was very pleased to. I always love the Gorons, and I was very pleased to meet up with the Gorons and talk with them. But just in general, Corey, what did you think of this area overall?
So this was actually the reason I did this one first of those three is because it was the only section of the map that I hadn't explored yet. So
Oh, okay.
I had explored the entire rest of the map, including the other two areas where the dungeons are. And this was the only one that I had actually unmapped on my map. So I was like, all right, let me just make sure I get all the overworld, and I might as well do this one while I'm up here. Um, I love the mountain. I love Death Mountain and the volcano area in general,
Mm-hmm.
just because you get a lot of like verticality and a lot of really cool like area traversal. But the Gorons were excellent. I really, really liked the Gorons in this game especially. They reminded me almost like some of the like you see character art for some of the Gorons in like the Oracle games and stuff, and these guys kind of reminded me of them. And I
Mm-hmm.
like this game does a really good job of like having really nice designs for the NPCs, including like unique NPCs. So we get a lot of unique.
Cameo. Speaking of
You get
there,
a lot of unique Goron designs too.
yeah.
They're very funny. And like the quick music check-in, Goron City is like
Mm.
it that's one where it starts out and it's like, okay, they're playing the hits, you know? They're touching on they got that like Goron silly drum beat thing, but like the melody comes in and it sounds very unique and very different, very whimsical, and it's one of my favorite Goron themes, I think.
Yeah. Uh, like we said with like a lot of the other music, like they do a good job of like getting the vibe of the what we know of the history of Zelda, but kind of give it its own unique feel.
Mm-hmm.
McKenna, how about you? The anything about Death Mountain, Goron region that stuck out to you?
Um, yeah, it's a delight to see the Gorons in this, especially in this art style. They're very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, Gorons are just big, lovable rocks. That's how the Gorons should be. Uh, and it's always nice to see the hot springs. I love a good hot spring in a game.
Definitely.
Um,
They're
yeah.
they're kind of oafish, the Gorons a little bit. And
They're silly. They're very silly.
I mean,
I like that though.
that's almost
Mhm, mhm.
every version of them. They they kind of they kind of need a lot of help. It makes me think all the way back to Ocarina of Time. Like they almost these poor fools, but I felt like I kind of liked the storyline with what's the guy's name, Darston or something.
Darston.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
he's
what do we
like,
think of Darston?
oh yeah, I thought it was a cute little storyline. He's kind of this, he's taken over right as the chief, and he's unsure of himself. What did you think?
It's a storyline that we've seen before, but like he's great. He's a likable guy. He's trying to live up to his dad, right? It's his dad, I think, that was the chief before. And like
Yes,
he
he's got
has
his like,
the like I can't remember how many, but he has the tablet of like the this many rules of being a good chief or whatever. And I like that Darston's just kind of like a nerd about like, oh, well, this is how you're
mm,
supposed to do this thing.
mm-hmm,
And we help him kind of find his confidence along the way. You know, you can't just be book smart to be a great chief. You know, you gotta put it into practice, and you gotta start leading people. And he's good. He's a very likable
mm-hmm.
character.
Yeah, I like that he like breaks the tablet later, right?
Oh yeah, that's kind of his like,
He's like, yeah,
we got to think outside the box
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And he
Hmm.
uses it for as like a blunt object or whatever. That's very good. That's a good moment.
Yeah.
How about just, I mean,
Then
so sorry, go ahead, Corey.
I was gonna say, and then we end up when it comes time to like getting towards the dungeon, we gotta find the shortcut, and the shortcut is through the back of the room, and we end up breaking the huge relief thing of his dad. It's like I was like, oh my gosh,
Yes, well, there you
that's an
go.
important thing we just destroyed.
And it's
No
thematic.
art preservation here.
Well, yeah, but it is like thematic with this storyline, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's a little extreme, but
And,
he's
and he
forging
ends
his
up
own
getting
path.
it. Yeah,
there's also just one thing that stood out to me. There's like that little part where you have to like get the meat for the Gorons, who are like, oh, we can't do anything. They're all like curled up into balls, and you have to like fetch the meat for them. But again, it cannot be an echo. They need the real thing.
gotta be the real rock roast.
Yeah, that was quite cute. Um, so similarly, here, we have a dungeon, of course, but like a lot of the exploration of the area itself, kind of, you start to learn a lot of like the mechanics that you're going to be dealing with in the dungeon. So McKenna, in the Eldin region, and then into the dungeon, what did you think about some of the more unique, I guess, sort of navigational challenges and sort of new echoes you had to deal with? Was there anything for you? Obviously there's lava, but there's more than that. What did you think of it?
I like using the flying echoes
Yeah.
to get around, trying to get the like wind boosts. There's like a little mini game race where you do that a few
It's
times.
very fun.
Um, yeah, it's cool because you go to Kakariko and you get the Kuko, which you get to use that for before you go into the mountain. So it kind of gives you a little preview, and then you get to go up there and fly around, and it's a lot of fun. You get that big lava rock echo. Forget what it's
That's a big
called
Yes.
one.
exactly.
It's called the
Uh,
lava rock.
it's called the lava rock.
Yeah,
Cool.
you got it.
I was like, sure. That sounds
Uh,
right.
yeah, which is, yeah, you can only make one of them because it costs a lot. So it definitely requires some thinking. You can't
Hmm.
just throw them around.
Yeah, true. Yeah, quite
I think I
I like
was
expensive.
those.
I was
That's a
also
kind of like
um
you go, McKenna.
I was using the boulder echo because it would sink down, I think, but you can like hop on them and make another one quickly to kind of get around.
Yeah, lava rock it was useful, but I think if I could usually find a different way to go, I didn't go ham on using the lava rock, but obviously it was very useful in this region. Corey, what were you gonna say?
I like the lava rock like that. There's a lot of like geysers, like lava geysers, and just the hot air geysers that damage you, where you
Hmm.
need something
Oh
to
yeah, yeah.
block them. And I like puzzles like that because it reminds me going all the way back to like Wind Waker, where you throw like a water pot on an area where there's going to be a big lava geyser, and it makes a platform that you can go up on. I like that's a really good use of the lava rock, I think.
For sure. And yeah, as you said, McKenna, with the flying around, it was very cool. It reminded me of uh, getting the blue Kuko in Link's Awakening and flying around the mountain. It was, yeah, that was very fun.
Mhm.
There's a I'm assuming you both of you did the there's like a little flight mini game
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
alongside the
yeah,
mountain.
McKenna, you mentioned that, right?
That's
After the dungeon, right? You can do it.
yeah,
It was
that's really
fun.
fun.
It there were like varying levels of difficulty, but I did feel like it was never too difficult.
No, it's never that hard, but
I
it's
was
fun just
it
having a
was
point
fun.
all the way across the mountain and
Mhm.
being like, "All right, you got to get here without touching the ground."
I was hoping for like the final one to be like, I don't know why. I just wanted like a tough one at the end, but it
Yeah,
was overall
super
very
hard.
fun. I just like the mechanic of floating around and stuff. So
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
the traversal in this area, which also blends into going into the dungeon, it's a lot of like avoiding hazards, which I feel like is a very common thing for fire themed
yeah.
levels in Zelda. And I also one of the echoes that I found myself using probably even more than the lava rock, unless a puzzle required that, is I used my good old floating tiles all the time to just get
Oh,
across gaps with lava.
very cool. Yeah, that's a much more fun way to go about it. I'll give you that. Yeah, those mechanics, I mean, they carry over into the dungeon itself. I think is the Eldin Temple, I believe it's called.
Yep.
And I mean, so a good chunk of what I would even have to say about that dungeon involves like just those mechanics in general. Um but so otherwise, like, I'm thinking of, for this temple, I'm not 100% sure. There are some standout moments, but it compared to some of the other ones where they have like sort of a more, there's sort of like a gimmick to it. This one, it doesn't stand out as much to me. You know what I mean? It's fun. Like those
Yeah.
mechanics we talked about were fun, but I think of like how the other ones have thrown in some sort of twist or like new thing. I guess there is some new stuff to it. But what did I'll let you go first. Corey, what did you think of the dungeon?
Well, inevitably, the theme absolutely slaps.
Yeah,
Incredible
yeah,
dungeon
for
music.
sure.
So good. Probably the best musically of these three that we're going to talk about, in my opinion. But the dungeon itself was kind of. I'm glad that I ended up doing it first of these three. I actually think the order that McKenna and I ended up doing the dungeons is exact. I'm perfectly glad that I did them in these exact orders because I feel like this one is a little bit lackluster in comparison to some of the other ones. I
Mm-hmm.
think if I had done this one last, I probably would have been let down even more. Just because, like you said, Goo, it's not even. It does feel like it's somewhat lacking in like a big central puzzle or a central gimmick or mechanic or something like that. But in addition to that, it feels really short, and
Yeah,
it also like some of the one of the strengths of this game, especially in the dungeons, even ones where you're not doing a bunch of exploring, the solo puzzles in rooms are really creative and really clever. And this one didn't feel quite that way as much. It was a lot more like, oh, just get from this point to this point and avoid the things, you know. That's not to say that there aren't any good puzzles, because there's good puzzles in every dungeon in this game. One of the one of my memorable moments is when you get the boss key or the big key chest. It's like you're climbing down in a 2D section. You get all the way to the bottom, and then the lava starts rising, and you gotta
yeah.
get your way back up to the
That's
top
that's
before
the
it gets you.
standout thing of the dungeon. That was
Yeah,
very fun.
but the only I was trying to figure out like what could be considered a central gimmick or mechanic or something for this dungeon. And the closest thing that I could think of is out of a lot of the dungeons, this possibly has the most expansive side scrolling section. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's like a
Mm-hmm.
really big side scrolling section that's got like multiple entrances and exits, which kind of makes the dungeon feel small. Because if you're spending a lot of time in there, which is just kind of like a I don't know. It feels almost like a hub area to get to the other parts of the dungeon.
Sure.
But it's still interesting.
McKenna, what do you think of the dungeon?
Um, this was my least favorite of the three.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it did have I did like the little lava escape sequence. I love escape sequences in
Yeah.
games, and
Mm-hmm.
we've had a few in this game. Uh,
They do
so that
love
was
it.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we'll probably get to this in a second, but I think the highlight of the dungeon for me was the boss.
No, let's just talk about it because I think I was just gonna mention the lava part and Corey, you mentioned.
We do fight Link again too
Oh, true, and
with the
We
bombs.
we get the
yeah,
bombs,
we
which
get the
is
bombs.
which was nice because the only other bomb thing I had was that bomb fish, and you kind of gotta wait for it.
Bombfish.
So
Not
at
gonna
this point,
lie, I think I still use the bombfish more even after I got that.
okay, yeah,
I did like getting the bomb shoes.
Oh yeah.
bomb
I got
choose.
excited
When you upgrade them,
at the
right?
beginning. Yeah, you do have to upgrade to get the bomb shoes.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the game, I remember as soon as I got control, I hit the pause menu to see what I had. And I was like, okay, I got bombs, and it like says in the description, oh, you can like hold the button to get the bomb shoes. So I was like,
I
oh, there's bomb shoes in the game.
I think
Ew.
I never did that. What the hell?
Really?
Oh
I don't think I
man,
ever used them.
I would love to do
I
that. I
think I
didn't.
did, because I think there were a few
Oh,
times where there were like bomb walls that were up higher.
Oh, okay.
Did I just
Yeah.
ruin your life?
I should have.
Who
That
missed
would
the
have.
bomb
That
shoes?
would have been. Well, I just must have. I don't know. Okay. Well, whatever. We got the bombs. We fought Link. Whatever.
Whatever.
Does he not use bomb chews
He
in
does. He
that?
uses bomb chews
He-
in the fight.
Look,
When he gets to like his angriest point where he's a little purple, he starts throwing bomb chews at him.
I think every time I fought Link, I killed him pretty quick. I gotta say. So I just probably didn't register it. Hey, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm blaming myself. So okay, we got that. That's cool. Well, that changes everything. But McKenna, you mentioned the boss, so why don't you tell us about the boss?
We got our guy, Volvagia. He's back. I think, did we see him in a trailer? I think we did see him in
For
a
the
trailer.
record,
Yeah.
I believe Volvagia is a girl. Just saying.
I was thinking that, and I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah,
Is that-
well,
did I just
okay.
make that up, or is that a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, we fought it.
Them. I'm trying to remember from the manga in Ocarina of Time where he has the baby.
Baby. I don't know. Hyrule Warriors has kind of
We talking
David-
Volga?
given me, that's like the human, that's like the human version of him, right? That's
Is that canon?
why I see him as a dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's just a fanboy. Volga's just a fanboy. He just dresses up like Volvagia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he flies around, and you got your platforms to jump around on, and he's got a few different attacks. He pops up and does like a crazy green attack thing.
Crazy green attack.
Crazy green attack thing, yeah.
It's got like a
Which I
gem.
thought was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used the bed several times in this fight. I think I got hit by that attack once, and it takes a chunk of hearts.
It's a lot of I had to heal quite a few times in this.
That's much like
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time. Volvagia can take a big chunk.
Yeah, I don't think either fight is like too difficult, but he
No.
can take a lot of health if you get hit.
I was actually, not to sound like a broken record, but I felt like this boss was actually a little too easy. I kind of did just
Really?
stomp it. Yeah.
That's interesting. This was the hardest of these three
Oh.
dungeons for me. Definitely.
Okay.
And mostly because like I mentioned this last time where it feels like some bosses it feels like they're done and over with super quick, and some bosses feels like they just have infinite health. And for some reason for me, Volvagia felt like I had to do like 8 cycles of just like getting Volvagia invulnerable and then slashing away or doing as much damage as I can, and I was like, this thing will not die. And it was mostly just a longevity thing, because like I was inevitably getting hit just like every now and then, but it would take a buttload of hearts, so I had to heal all the time. And was there like a certain way that you two approach this fight? Because what I would do is I would wait until Volvagia does the big green attack and just kind of get out of the way, and then bond the necklace and like pull back enough until it like breaks or whatever, and Volvagia gets invulnerable, and then if I can get up to them, just slash away, and if not, just shoot with arrows. And it felt like that took forever for me.
I had probably some echoes going too, like might have been one of my whiz robes or something like that. I had aid, so I think it was probably doing some extra damage there too. Maybe even might have thrown out an automaton at some point too. I don't know. It was more there's an easier boss actually that for me. So this one was more of just like it took longer, I think, because I had to go through like that cycle a couple times. But yeah, I'd never. It felt very like, everything was mostly, what's the word? Signaled. All the moves. So it was pretty avoidable. I felt like, yeah, I felt like I was kind of going through the script a little bit. It was fun. It was fun, but it was as after the dungeon itself, like I feel like you could have maybe swapped this dungeon with like the Gerudo temple, and it would have this would have fit more in the first batch of dungeons.
Very true. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think this would fit more with like an early game dungeon thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the complexity of the puzzles, because none of them are that, none of them are super difficult or anything.
Yeah, it definitely this was more in the realm of like the platformy type stuff, which is it's fine to have some variety, I'll say, but yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. Fire dungeons are typically like that too. It had kind of like Cave of Flames vibes almost.
Yeah, right. If we're thinking of even Ocarina of Time, like both the fire Goron dungeons in that game are a bit more of a you're more one you're kind of going through the cavern, and the other you're climbing up a mountain, and there's the room to room puzzles are less significant, I would say, but yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to say about this dungeon or region in general, or should we move on to the I feel like I would want to do Faron next, if that's okay. Can we follow my path?
I'll defer to you if you want.
Okay. Because for me, I associate this as earlier, because it was one of the, like, I started checking out this region earlier than the other regions. So,
yeah.
So, okay, we talked about the Gorons. Let's talk about the Deku. McKenna, you
love them.
Yeah, you were saying a lot to me about them as you're going through. You were really into them. It seemed like. What'd you think about them?
I love these guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're so cute. You just like wander in there, and it's just a bunch of unsupervised children hanging out.
They're literally all kids. Yeah,
they're awesome.
They all just got some candy, and that's all they care about. And you gotta go in there. Yeah, you gotta go in there and like set things straight for them. They learn from their mistakes? I don't know, but they're so cute.
Not so much.
They're so dramatic. And yeah, I definitely a different vibe than like the Majora's Mask Deku Scrubs.
Yeah. It was sort of like, it wasn't ever set like they didn't really get into it, but it was interesting that they were all kids. It made me think of like it was some cross between them and like the Kokiri or something. Where it was like they're just all like all these little children, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't actually think they were all kids. I just thought they were all just kind of silly little guys.
I guess they all have like little faces like this, Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're just
little I don't know if they're actually children, but they have like children.
There are ones
behavior.
Yeah, they are childlike.
There's the business scrubs. They're like the only ones.
I don't know actually, because there are ones where it's like their job is literally like guarding the prison.
But they have little baby voices,
Yeah, they're just little Deku guys. They have like some of them have like mohawks, and some of them have like the old guy hair where it's like they're puffing out the sides,
Yeah,
like kind of like the Deku butler.
Yeah, I mean, even the guards in like Majora's Mask seemed like little guys. You really just had the king and the butler who seemed like adults,
Yeah, who seemed different.
Um,
These
Yeah.
You know, the thing lately because of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom has been Koroks, and I saw these guys and I was like, Korok who, man? Just give me Dekus all the time.
It was
They're amazing.
it was good to see them kind of come back,
Yeah.
yeah, and be like an actual, and just like the region itself, it made me think of Majora's Mask, obviously, like them kind of living out in this swamp or whatever, um, or wetlands, I guess you could say. That was very
Yeah.
reminiscent of that.
So I think this it's like a new kind of thematic setting that Zelda's going for like a staple setting, which is like the wetlands areas, and I feel
Hmm.
like it's pretty inspired by like the Faron wetlands in Breath of the Wild and
Oh
Tears of the
yeah.
Kingdom.
Mm.
And in those games, that area is pretty explicitly like there's not I don't think there's a lot of like civilization there. All that's there is a lot of like Zonai ruins. There's a lot of like Zonai architecture and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So you get like this really cool, almost like jungly rainforest vibe area. Um, and I think incorporating that with the Dekus, because it does feel similar to kind of like the swamp area in Majora's Mask, but also a little bit more a little unique from that too because it incorporates a lot of like tribal stuff and there's a lot of like musical motifs from like Deku Palace from Majora's Mask and like
Oh yeah.
Scrubton and in the dungeon themes and stuff. There's like totem poles all over the place and a bunch of like ancient looking sculptures. I feel like this just fits so well with the Deku and I just want more of it.
Yeah, the game does. It's just something we brought up a lot, but it does such a good job of like marrying ideas from across the series, and presenting them in both like a familiar but new way. That's like it was like both exciting to discover, but also like there was something like aw, like this is I don't know. It was like nostalgic and new at the same time. I don't know. They walked that tightrope pretty well, but you mentioned too. There's that little, there's a little stealth sequence in there, also much like
Oh
Majora's
yeah.
Mask. Um, I actually like this part. What'd you think, McKenna?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought I liked it. I know a lot of people don't like sections where they like take away all your stuff, but I do. I like it in Skyward Sword. I like it in Oracle Ages. Ages is the one where they
Okay,
take your
Island
stuff
or
away.
Crescent Island.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Crescent. Yeah.
Yeah. This wasn't quite as not the same as those. There's not like a
Well,
like reacquisition of items one by
mm-mm.
one.
But
Yeah, it
Um,
just like takes away your abilities pretty much.
yeah.
you still well, one, you got a stick, which is funny.
You have a stick. The kind Deku scrub leaves you a stick.
And I actually I enjoyed it because it was sort of a little check on your bind ability.
Yeah.
It was like some bind puzzles in there, and I like them. I actually like that one where you have to like get the heart piece, or you don't have to, but
I
that optional one.
yeah, I tried. I tried to do it. And then I couldn't do it. I was like, "All right, I'm gonna come back." And then I walked out of the room and I was like, "Oh, I get my stuff back right here." And I walked right back and just boop boop boop.
I don't know if that's like you were intended to come back or not, but when I got to that
Oh
room, I
no,
was like, I feel like they want me to come back, and I'm not doing that. I'm getting it right now. And I workshopped it out and like very specifically placed things on top of things at weird angles so I could get my way up.
I did that before. There was like a different puzzle you have to actually do, and I did that first. Um, so then when I came out to do the other puzzle, I was like, oh, this is like I was way more prepared for the main puzzle after doing it. But I messed
Yeah.
with it for like I don't know. It took me maybe like 5 minutes or something of just like really banging my head against it, to solve it. It was a satisfying puzzle.
Mhm.
I liked it. So yeah. I like this sequence. I and it was just good in general because like the game you know, it had those different stealth sequences that you could do. And I like that they actually stuck with that as opposed to it being just like this random thing you do once. I like that they kind of like gave you different versions of it, you know, with different, sometimes you have different abilities or
Yeah.
a different objective maybe. So I don't know, I was you know, I enjoyed it.
It's a small touch too, but I like that when they see you, it's not like in some other Zelda games where they see you and you're automatically caught. If you have a little bit
Oh
of
yeah,
time to
yeah.
try and run away. And there were a couple times where like I got to the very end of the room and the last guy saw me and I booked it through the door before he could get me.
And they can't go through
But they're
doors, you know.
yeah, it's classic Dekus just can't go through doors. But they're so funny. They're just so funny. I love the part where you're like, I think it's in that section where you come upon like three of them that are just like talking in a room, and they're like, "Oh, we're not messing around." And then later on, there's like, there was a moment that made me laugh out loud where like, I think it's later on when you're gonna enter the dungeon area, or maybe when you're doing stuff associated with the dungeon. But one of the guys is like, what would you rather do? Like, would you rather save your friend or the cotton candy or whatever? And he takes a huge long pause and he's like, "How dare you?"
Yeah, they were silly little guys. We loved them. Yeah.
This is a post dungeon, but there's like a side quest where I think it's the ones that are playing tag with each other or hide and
Hide and
seek.
seek, yeah.
But like at the end of it, the one just like dramatically flops onto the ground
Oh
on
yeah.
his spur, and he's just like, "What?" That
Very good.
yeah,
they
that was a laugh out loud moment for me.
they had like a ton of personality. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. This
So
was just talking a little bit about like the traversal and like
mhm.
because what you end up having to do for to get into the dungeon is you have to get like a membership card to get into the area where all the cotton candy is coming from, right? And
Hmm.
that basically just takes you to a few different spots throughout the whole Faron wetlands area. And I had explored this entire region before I even went to Jabul Waters. This was like the second area that I
Wow.
visited. Like immediately after, I mentioned this in an earlier episode where like after Southern Ruins, you get out of the beach and you start going. You got to go to the prison's house, and I was like, all right, great. I'm gonna hop over these trees and just go east and see what's over there. So I explored this entire area, and I didn't. I basically just warped to wherever they needed me to go. So I didn't really have to do any more exploration in this part of the game. But
Did it ruin it for you?
no, I
Okay.
not at all because I had already. I mean, the exploration of it was already sick, and now it was like when I was going through it, you get a bunch of these guys are still being silly goofs, but they're basically like actually that. Oh, I wish I had remembered what specifically they said because they were some of the funniest in being almost like fourth wall breaking. Like, why are you here? Like there are a couple what guys you can talk to in Scrubton, and they're like, "Oh, are you lost, stranger? You're here, and it's totally peaceful. So I don't know what you're doing here." And you can go, you can talk to the guy, like at his house. The guy who like a few of them show up and they're at the guy's house. I think he's the one you actually get the membership card from. And it's a similar thing. He's like, "Oh, did you like get lost or something? I'm not really sure what you're doing over here. We don't really get a lot of visitors, so."
That's amazing. I love that. They're like, it's never a good sign. I don't think it's good to be like, hey, it's peaceful right now. Come back
Yeah.
later.
He's
That's weird.
I remember thinking that I was like, I don't know what you're doing here because it's all peaceful, and I was like, why wouldn't I come here when it is peaceful?
That seems like a good time. Yeah. Well, maybe they're probably
Yeah.
used to their uh, seclusion. You know, the region itself. It makes a lot of sense actually because like I don't think there's like a direct path like into that area, right? You kind of, no matter how you get there, you have to climb over something or
I think
something
there's
like that.
one.
Oh,
In
is
the
there? Okay.
In
northwest.
like the upper left,
I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I
there's
came
like
from.
a soldier.
Yeah, it's where the
Oh, that's
soldier
right.
is. There's
Okay,
one
never mind,
area
never
where you
mind.
can like walk into it, but
That is not how I got there, though.
Same. That's why I was like, eh. Okay. So I would say, well, we can talk about the dungeon, but similar to the other dungeons, you get a taste of a lot of things in the overworld. So, I would describe the Faron region as like lightning and spider webs. Like those are kind of your main obstacles you're dealing with. Um, what do you think of these mechanics, McKenna? What do you think?
Uh, I really enjoyed the mechanics of this
Mm.
area. You got those like the frog guys too to control the weather, basically.
Yes, that
You
they
got
like
them
almost do a Song
singing.
of Storms type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, lightning, lightning is can be frustrating, but I like that you get to use it to solve
Yes,
puzzles here. Yeah, in I don't know, I feel like kind of a different way than maybe we're used to.
it reminds me a little
It's
bit
definitely
of
a,
the last two games.
yeah,
yeah.
it's a little different, I think, but
Yeah,
I set every spider web on fire. Every one that I found, I set it on fire because I was like, I gotta see if there's something underneath of it.
yeah. This led to
Of
heavy
course.
Igni Zol usage for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that these elements, these mechanics of this area lent me to using my old trusty dusty buzz blob a ton. Because whenever there were those like electricity gems, you just charge it up and launch it at it, and immediately just lights it up.
That was
And
okay.
ignizols, tossing ignizols around everywhere.
I did the quite inefficient try to get my Wizrobe to shoot it,
Yeah.
but then Keys became the big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Electric
Okay.
keys, yeah. I don't remember where you get those. It might have been in the dungeon itself. Um,
Electric keys. I don't think I don't know if I ever really used electric keys very much. I definitely used more than a few fire keys in this area,
well, I mean,
especially in dark areas in the dungeon too.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you where I used them, but let's talk about the dungeon itself because there was obviously a lot of that stuff going on. You know, fun puzzles with that, but I think the thing that stands out that we're gonna want to talk about more is the overarching puzzle or whatever you want to call it of the dungeon. Corey, you're a dungeon connoisseur of many a game. What did you think?
This is a dungeon after mine own heart
Mm-hmm.
because there are like seven different entrances or something into the dungeon, and like my God, it's like when I initially saw that, I was like, "Whoa, that's really cool. That's crazy. I get to go in here whatever way I want." And my immediate thought was like, "Yeah, but it's probably going to be like there's going to be, a set path that you really have to do." And that was not the case
Yeah,
even remotely. Like it's all and pretty much every entrance, if I'm not mistaken, almost every entrance is essential because
yeah,
it's a big dungeon and it actually takes a while and you have to find I found myself using the map all the
Mm-hmm.
time in this dungeon. It brought me back to like when using the map was actually important and critical. And goo, we've talked.
Don't
we
This cat
comment
is
how
going
many
nuts
times
right
the
now.
if
cat
you can get the
has made an
cat on
appearance.
the actual, to get their thoughts, that'd be nice too. But
No, she can
You
get
gotta
out of here.
put on your cat costume
Yeah,
and give us a little
and
interview.
talk to her. But yeah, you have to. I don't know, man. Like the puzzles are great. thematically, it's incredible. The music is awesome. It's super fitting. And it's got the electricity and the fire puzzles and the darkness, and it's got the
Hmm.
cool mini boss that travels from room to room. And it's like it reminded me in the best way of some of my favorite dungeons like Skull Woods from A Link to the Past, where it's like you can hop in from so many different points and you pretty much have to find keys or certain entrances to certain puzzles that are meant to be solved from a specific way. And like once we get to this dungeon in Gooey's Dungeon Dive in like 25 years or
25
so,
years, yeah.
yeah, this dungeon is gonna be making a pretty big run for me. This
Okay.
dungeon, it's been a while since this has happened, but this dungeon blew me away. I was super impressed with this dungeon.
Okay. Well, strong. I have a rebuttal, but McKenna, what did you think?
Yeah, I haven't totally ranked the dungeons in this game, but this is definitely one of my top two. Uh, I also love all the entrances.
Mm-hmm.
Same sentiment about the map, using the map, needing to use the map. Particularly the one time I used it a lot was for like the side scrolling section where it's like there's like one entrance on one side and one entrance on the other, and you're like barred from like crossing over. You have to go to the other entrance. Um,
That, I actually want to talk about that puzzle because this is something that I think the intended. I mean, you can do it whatever. So much of this game is like do it your own way, right? But I think the intended thing is you're supposed to find it from the top and then be like, oh, I can't do this unless I go in from the bottom. And then from the bottom, you shoot something across the bars to get the scale to go down, which lifts up this side that you have access to, and then you climb up yourself, hit the switch, which opens the doors because this is all for a chest, which I think has a key.
Mhm.
What I did is I came in from the top, and I was like, I think they want me to go in from the bottom, but I'm not going to do that. So what I did instead is I got down on the scale, put rocks there, and I shot an enemy echo through the bars, one that had enough movement and was able to hit things by itself. And then
oh
I
my
would like
gosh.
create as much distance from me and it as possible, and then use bond, and then climb up with it like simultaneously. And you know how like if your bond or whatever is next to something immovable, but you have moved to room, it'll just like increase the distance that you are away from it, but you're
Mm-hmm.
still attached to it. I would basically get it up against the wall, increase the distance away from it, climb up to the top level, drop it in underneath the other scale, and let it hit the switch by itself to open the thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think you need to make walkthrough videos for
Yeah. How to
this
do
whole
this in a goofy?
That would be crazy.
I'm trying to
That would look
remember
really weird.
what I did. I isn't there's a way to almost like push the scales like up, right? Like I don't know. I don't remember that one as well, but Corey's out here breaking the game.
It's the game allowed me to do it.
I like.
I
Sorry, go ahead,
what-
McKenna.
were you talking about that puzzle more?
Wow. Aw.
Just get a little
I'm just
cat
I'm just hoping
feature
she
in the
doesn't knock
video.
stuff down.
Anyway, well, I mean, I say let her do her thing unless she breaks something. Then we'll stop.
There. Yeah.
um, I I like that the entrances were kind of different. The entrances somewhere like you had to expose it or something, which is kind of similar like Skullwoods, how you maybe go in an entrance or maybe cut some grass and fall in a hole.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I definitely, it was nice to see that return in A Link Between Worlds, but that one was kind of how you were describing it, Corey, where it had a lot of great puzzles, but it was sort of, you were
Yeah.
sort of going through a somewhat linear path, which was
Yeah.
kind of missing the overall cool point of the original dungeon, which was you were like in the overworld. It was a bit more contained, you know. You're like, it's like, here's this, screen that's the outside, and then there's the inside. Nothing wrong with that necessarily. I did feel like it was a little bit like, there were a couple times actually where I had to check the map and stuff, I will say, so it wasn't like extremely straightforward or anything, but it did feel like it was just like, at times it'd be like, you'd enter the dungeon from one of the ways and do the thing that you have to do that way, and then you get back to that central room and you can go out, and then you have to just go find a different entrance. So it kind of just felt like, I mean, that was unique, but it did feel like, okay, now I just have to go out to that outdoor area and kind of find the next way and work my way back to the middle, at least the way I went through it. Now, partially through it, there does start to become some backtracking depending on how you go through it. Obviously, it's a little bit open ended, so that was cool. But I never, it wasn't one that fully. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm also just so used to it. It's not like it ever fully stumped me, and I will say it was like probably my favorite dungeon in the game. Um, so I don't even know if I'm saying those things as like a negative. It was just more, I started to notice that, like, okay, it was almost kind of cool where I'm like, okay, like, you keep working your way back to this central area. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt like that, Corey, but
Well, so I kind of hear what you're saying. I feel like it does hinge on like the approach that you take to the dungeon and like which entrances do you do first, because it's possible that you could just like, I think there are one or two entrances, there's at least one where you literally just go in and it's secluded and it's just to get a small key. And then you go out and you got to go back in.
yeah,
And
which that was cool. That was cool, actually.
the main entrance, the one in the middle of the dungeon, the one that looks like the front door, is, I'm pretty sure, the one that leads to that central area, but initially it's blocked off with a gate, so you can see the central area, but you can't even get there yet until
Yeah.
you solve a puzzle on the other side. The way that I first came into it, I think, was from one of the left entrances. And if I'm not mistaken, the path that I took initially took me through a side scrolling section which led straight to that like lower floor dark big section, which has like three or four doors leading off of it. So I immediately from the get-go, I was like, okay, I have options, like more so than, you come to a room in a regular 2D dungeon and it's like there's a door to go up and there's a door to go left. And most of the time, it's as complex as you go to the room to the left and it's one puzzle and you get a thing and then come right back and then follow the path, which continues upwards. And this, I kept finding myself being like, okay, this is bringing me to a completely different part of the dungeon. And I know there are several doors I have missed, some of which are locked, and that's what I think is really cool about
Mm-hmm.
this, which I think you're describing like coming back to a central area a lot of times and then finding your next path. And I feel like that fits really well with one of your like I don't know how to describe it. In Gooey's Dungeon Dive, you talked a lot about some dungeons where it's like unpicking a knot. It's like a big ball with a bunch of different
Oh
strands,
yeah,
and it's like you
definitely.
find one strand and see where it goes, and you're able to pull it off the whole thing, and it brings you back to the center, and you're like, okay, now I can keep unloosening the knot. And I think especially because there are so many areas where it's like, because there's a world where this dungeon functions very similarly, but a lot of the cool extra rooms and side stuff is just for like goodies and stuff. But I found almost every time it was either for a completely different way to get through the dungeon, or it was for a key that unlocked another part of the dungeon. And because of that, I was like, this was just like pure unadulterated, like, find your way through this. And especially because my brain wants to like find the way through every dungeon. I want to visit every room and get every chest. That's typically what I do when I play Zelda games. So I found myself like 25 minutes through this dungeon and having a whole big unexplored section and being like, how the heck do I get over there? And then looking at the map and being like, okay, so I haven't gone through this locked door, and there's another entrance over here, so I could try one of those two. And I don't know. That is just like pure serotonin for me when I'm playing through a Zelda game. And in addition to that, it's like it still has the solid puzzles going through the whole thing with like electricity and the fire and stuff like that. So
some cool like big rooms too, I'll say. That was fun. Like where you have a like sometimes the rooms themselves are like you're exploring, which you kind of think of more with this style game. You know, sometimes there would be scrolling screens or something, but like some of them are like dense rooms to navigate, and like you have to find like light up all the electricity things and stuff like that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it the entrance where with the torches that are lit. There you have to, get them.
Yeah, before when you're entering the dungeon, or when you're entering
and I'm wondering how did you get them to go out?
The torches and the
yeah, at the beginning there's the circle of torches that you have to
like
I think I used a wind cannon and just kind of like spun around with it, or maybe set it up at each of the things. I don't remember exactly.
I don't know. What'd you do?
I actually do remember being confused at that part because I was like, do I have to unlight every torch in the area or something?
That was my first. I was like, oh my god, is this a like reverse torch puzzle? And I got the one that blows air in all directions, and I just plopped it down in the middle.
Oh
nice.
Yeah.
Can you do the frog and have it make it rain?
That's what I'm wondering, if like we all did this in a different way.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, you can use rain, you can use wind, or you can use rain, or I guess I don't know, maybe there's other
there is I will say, like, what I was kind of working out, it's not necessarily, it reminds me of a different dungeon that Corey, you and I are going to discuss soon, where a teaser for Gooey's Dungeon Dive, but where they kind of take a traditional dungeon concept that's normally somewhat more complicated, and kind of keep a lot of the core of it, but they streamline it in some ways that a lot of people don't notice, that makes it harder to like mess it up, you know what I mean? Like especially in this, where you get like a bunch of checkpoints and stuff like that, and also, I mean, to be Skull Woods in A Link of the Past, it's not like you can really mess up too bad and be totally screwed over. No. But you know what I mean, they make it so like they limit the backtracking. But say similar to something like Lake Bed, I'll just say it, they take the water concept and but they don't make it so you can like have to go through a whole ordeal of like resetting anything, something like that, while maintaining the core of what is cool about the puzzle, which I prefer to, like I said, with The Link Between Worlds, where they take it aesthetically, but they don't really maintain much about the gameplay other than like the act of going in and out of the overworld, you know. So yeah, okay. So mini boss. There is a mini boss here that's not fighting Link, and it's I mean, what is this? This is, at first I thought this was Manhandla, but it wasn't Manhandla.
Yeah, it looks like Manhandle.
Is the freaking the Twilight Princess one, the Baba, Dia Baba or
Yeah.
something.
I don't know.
What'd you think about this guy?
He was cool. He was fine. I what I like most is that he travels from room to room, and it's like it's somewhat reminiscent of like the Stalfos
Yeah.
guy
Catfish's maw.
Mm-hmm. Catfish.
from
That's what I
Catfish's
thought
Maw.
of. Yeah.
It would,
It's not
yeah.
quite the same, but like, and this guy, I didn't. He wasn't very difficult because like you can actually just like slash the heads. I think the good way to do it is probably like make him eat like a bomb or something, and then he blows up and gets
I don't
invulnerable.
even
But
remember
Yeah,
like
what
you
I
can
that's
did.
literally just like slash his heads.
that's what I did. I did the bomb.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Could you
I don't think I
could you
used.
bind?
Did I
I
bind?
think I did, but
I think
does it?
I believe I think it
I
might have
think
been
I
this
did
enemy
like
where
the first half, and then the second half used bombs. I think there's a different strategy.
I don't recall. I love this. We can't remember anything. Like I said,
You're good,
the
yeah.
horse drawing. That's what we'll call it, horse
I do
drawing.
remember
But
I was using one strategy, and then I got to a point where I couldn't use that strategy anymore, and then I realized like, oh, this guy swallows stuff, so I started using
oh,
bombs.
Yeah.
I think there was an enemy in this game. I might have been this one where I was sending out my echoes and just binding it and like pulling it back and holding it while my echoes would just like slash it. It felt kind of mean, but well, let's talk about the boss proper then. It was Gohma. We like to see Gohma back.
Good old
Goma.
Goma.
Iconic boss.
Classic Goma.
You know, this one was it could be I think it could be tricky depending on what it can get off, what type of attacks, but I was pretty easily able to stay on top of my strategy, like kind of get the get the things lit up. It had like these light
Orbs,
electric
crystals.
orbs on its
Yeah, it had the
body.
electric orbs.
I don't know what McKenna, what did you think about Goma?
I think this is my favorite Goma fight.
Ooh, ooh, this sounds like a
Uh,
I
tier
praised.
list
I praised.
idea.
I
Rank the Goma.
I love
I
the
gotta think about
how
this now.
the electricity
Yeah.
was incorporated. Um, they combine the spider and the spider web and the electricity here. I used the
True, very
electric
true.
piece. They were the MVPs of this fight. Uh, yeah, this fight was fun for me.
You know, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
my favorite Goma is the Legend of Zelda, where you could beat it in like 3 seconds.
Save it for the ranking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing I'm
My
thinking,
favorite Goma is from Faces of Evil.
hell yeah. Well, the thing I'm thinking about Goma now is looking at him like Goma fights are usually not too tough. I
Yeah.
feel like except maybe
Goma's a,
Oracle of Seasons is kind of tough, but
that's
this
one of the
was
only later Goma fights, I think.
yeah, this
That
was
and Armagoma too, but Armagoma's super easy.
yeah, this was it was not as easy as Armagoma, I'll say
Mhm.
that. So I'll give it props there. What do you think, Corey?
Uh, I, it was very fun. I think it was a really fun boss fight. I especially like that it's got like three pretty distinct phases, because it's like you, I don't know. At least the way that I was fighting it, it seemed to have three pretty distinct phases. I just think I
Hmm.
was a little too efficient at it. Like from the first time that I fought it, I think I did everything like perfectly.
That's what I'm
And then
saying.
when you do the dojo,
Yeah,
the dream dojo later, and you fight it again, I just kept getting faster and faster at it. And most of that actually was in part to my good friend, the trusty Dusty Buzzblob. He was so like, because when he's initially up on the wall, you can target the individual things, and it's just like, all right, let me get close enough where I could just shoot one up, light that, light that, light
Mm.
that. He falls down, I just slash away at him. Next phase, he's crawling along on the ground, and I just wait till he, spins in a certain direction, and like, all right, get that one. He's stunned for a little bit. Walk around, get that one. Walk around, get that one, and then for the last phase, he gets back up on the wall and he throws a bunch of. He spits like a buttload of webs down at you, and then he also spits out like the little baby gomas,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But like if you can just take out a bunch of ignazole and throw them everywhere, burn all the webs, burn all the little babies, and then just at that point, I think because I actually love that because I threw a bunch of ignazole out to take
Mhm.
care of the hazards and the enemies and stuff. And the next thing, sorry, I don't know what her deal is. But after Goma does that, the next thing is it's on the wall and it shoots the laser beam at you.
Mm-hmm.
But because there are a bunch of ignazole out on the field, it starts focusing on the ignazole, which gives me just enough time to get to the side and just like shoot the eye with an arrow, and then it just
So
falls
you
and
should be
just.
doing the walkthrough. Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, for the Goma fight, I did super quick.
Yeah,
But it's
this
fun
is
though. It
where
is really
my
fun.
the electric keys were very good in this. That's why I feel like
Mhm.
I kind of stomped Goma, but not. It was a bit. There was a bit more to it. I feel like of the these three dungeons post Hyrule Castle, this was probably the more involved one for me. Where um
Yeah.
second, and then I guess Volvagia second. Um, we'll talk about the other one, but yeah, no. Overall, I think this is probably the best dungeon in the game. Um, I don't know. We'll have to rank them more in depth sometime, but I think this is the
Yeah.
best dungeon in the game.
We'll rank them. We'll rank them at some point.
Mhm.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, why don't we should we'll have an epic cliffhanger here, and say stick around for part two of our finale. Uh,
What?
yeah. Oh, what's gonna happen? Is Corey gonna make it? Find
Probably
out.
not.
Yeah, next time we're gonna do another video here, and we'll talk about the Hebra region and the end, and we'll kind of just wrap up our thoughts on the game overall. But of course, we'll touch upon more topics on the game afterwards. So leave while Corey searches for the kitty.
I'm hearing noises and I can't see the cat and it's scaring me.
So Corey legit might not make it to the next video. There might be a cat attack or something. So
You're
um
just gonna see her fly.
so yeah, leave a comment with
Edit a
more
cat in there and
echoes. Get more echoes topics in the comments, and we'll probably hit upon them more in more bite-sized videos when we're done. But until then, stick around for our last big echoes discussion, and yeah, we'll see you in the end.